Hey there, this is Travis back for the next installment, or the current installment, or whatever installment of this whole Les Paul project here. Last time, as you probably remember, last two times we dealt with the cutting of a nut. That was a very fraught experience. The cutting of the nut is quite easy, the making of the video not quite so much, especially when you have hands in the way constantly. This is what I felt like making the nut video right there, just like, this is filming the cutting of a nut. Nothing but hands, because that's what it is, because my hands aren't that large, they're large enough, but the nut is not large at all. So anyway, getting on to this, the next phase is the thinning up of this here guitar neck. And as you can see on the video, it basically looks like a guitar neck. It doesn't look as thick as it feels. All right, so I just want to give a little bit of advice on this, because if this is something you're going to try, you don't want to try it just like going willy-nilly after the guitar neck. Here's why. Because everyone always wants to take off more wood than they should, and then you wind up getting into the truss rod channel, and you ruin the neck. How do I know this? Take a guess. Long ago, in a land far, far away, someone just went right into a truss rod channel. See, here's the thing with guitar necks. They may feel like this feels like a very round, thick guitar neck compared to, say, that blue guitar, that green guitar, what have you. Reality is that it is not really that different from them at all. We're talking about a major difference of, you know, 1/10 of an inch. We're not looking at massive differences here in thickness. I actually went through with the old calipers here and measured these out, and just to get some reference measurements. Now, here's how I was measuring. You may not like measuring this way. I felt like measuring this way because, once again, I'm going off of what I call the playing surface. So that is the string pressed to the fret is part of the total thickness of the neck as you perceive it, right? That's the way I look at it. Other people want to measure straight off the fretboard. Other people will measure from the top of the bead of the fret. Any of them work, because honestly, if you're just doing a comparison, it's just a comparison. The variation between this guitar and the thinnest necked guitar, which is this EVH 5150 series, that's what it is. I can't ever remember the series of that. I don't know, it's in my mind it's like the EVH Kramer. So at the first fret, this guy is at 0.9 inches, the EVH 0.86. 7th fret, this is at 0.99 inches, the EVH 0.89. So that's significant, but it's not tremendous. That's 1/10 of an inch. So I mean, if you're looking at a tape measure, it's not tenths, but it's like not much. And then at the 12th fret, and that's where you start seeing the big difference between like a Les Paul type guitar and a Strat type guitar, is that Strat necks tend to stay thinner longer because of the nature of the actual neck joint, whereas Les Paul necks tend to thicken out in preparation of the heel coming out. So the EVH at the 12th fret was 0.9. So 0.9, like the 12th fret, thickness-wise was very similar to the 7th fret, whereas the Les Paul was 1.03. So there was a significant increase in thickness on this neck between the 7th fret and the 12th fret. And now, I'm not trying to make it like the EVH, and I don't recommend just going after a guitar, like trying to make everything into some Ibanez Wizard neck. Nothing wrong with Ibanez Wizard necks, but that's why you buy an Ibanez, if you want to have an Ibanez Wizard neck. In this case, what we're just trying to do is to take this guitar neck and thin it up just enough so that it's a little bit more comfortable. Now, I'll tell you what I don't like about it, and I can't really show it on the camera, but if you hold the neck at just the right angle in the light, actually you can almost kind of see that on there. You can see there's a line down the middle. It actually kind of comes to a bit of a peak, especially below the 6th fret or so. It comes to a bit of a peak, almost kind of a point, and it kind of squares off right down in there. I don't like the feel of that under my thumb, so I'm gonna take that out. And the other thing is that it does thicken up significantly as it moves toward the heel. So how do you address this without over addressing it, is really the question, and the answer is in preparation. So my plan is on the 1st fret, which is right here, that's going to get rid of 1/32 of an inch of wood. That's not much. That I am doing with sandpaper, okay? So I'm not even going to depth mark that. I'm just going to, you know, a 32nd of an inch. If we pull up roughly, yeah, if I drop the calipers. What I strongly recommend if you're breaking out the scientific instruments is that you drop them on the floor. That helps everything a lot. Okay, so 32nd of an inch, right about 0.3, 0.03. I'm going to call it 0.03. That's roughly a 32nd of an inch. It's not much at all. So that isn't something I want to necessarily cut depth marks in on the neck with. Now what I'll be doing with 7th fret area and further up here, I'm going to make a couple of depth marks at a 16th. I don't want to remove material very quickly once I've gotten to a 16th inch depth. Once we get into the actual reshaping of the neck, I'll show you a little bit more. Basically what I'm going to be doing is cutting depth slots right through here. And then, you know, once I've sanded everything out to that level, then I know that I need to slow up pretty quickly and probably switch more to a smoothing than a shaping methodology. The other thing on this too is that most of the bulk of the wood on this neck in particular is right in this middle range here. It's right in the middle of the neck itself. It's not on the edges. We don't need to start taking a bunch of material out of here and here. That's not where the problems are. The problem, as far as there is a problem, if you're comfortable with it, obviously it's not a problem, but the problem, the area that is bothersome to me is right in here. So this is where we're going to be concentrating on removing material. We're going to be leaving the edges, because the edges basically are fine. It just comes to a little bit more of a rounded C shape than the more D shape that you would probably have with like a 1960 profile Les Paul neck. Or a lot of the modern ones, or all the 70s ones, you know, that sort of thing. So that's what I like. After further review, I actually spent like $300 on this guitar. I thought it was $400. So I really don't feel bad about doing this with that little money invested. On the other hand, I don't recommend doing it with something that has cost significant money. I mean, you can. It's your guitar, but after a certain point, it just makes more sense to buy a guitar with a neck that you like. But if it's a low investment thing, well, why not? All right, here I sit in my palatial garage workstation, which isn't really a workstation, it's just a bench. See, I got a box from some floor mats that I got for Christmas. And you can see the back of this neck here. I've marked it out. So that's the 1st fret, that's the 7th, that's the 12th. And this is that ridge that I was talking about. That annoys me. This is where the majority of the wood is going to be coming away from. Now, before I start actually removing wood, what I'm going to do is take this saw, which I've prepared. You see this piece of tape on here? Just a little tiny bit of the kerf showing. That is 1/16 of an inch. So the areas where I only want to go a 1/16 of an inch deep, I'm actually going to take the saw and just cut until I reach the edge of my tape on that area where I want it to go in that deep. Now, I'm not going to do that on the 1st fret. There we are. That's it. That's it. That's 1/16 of an inch. That is a very, very, very shallow cut. I don't want to go deeper than that. If you go deeper than that, you're very quickly getting into truss rod land, and you don't want to be there. Here are my cast of characters. First off, 100 grit sandpaper sanding block. This is a Surform. If you choose to use this, be exceedingly careful. Exceedingly careful. This will take wood off faster than you can say Jack Robinson. So be incredibly careful with this. Be very sparing with it. This is why we made our marks here. This is why we set our depth. And to use it, it takes a moment to scuff through the paint. But once you do, once you're into wood, it goes quickly. So be incredibly careful about how you go about using a Surform, because it will once you're through the paint, start removing wood incredibly quickly. So what I'm doing here, I'm just getting through my paint. You can see right up in here it gets a little bit tougher because we're no longer square. I'm just moving through my paint, getting the center line outlined. Not really removing wood yet, just removing finish. Just wanting to get that start on taking off a little bit of finish. Again, surf form exceedingly quick. And also bear in mind, this one is old. If you have a brand new one, it's really going to cut fast. Since again, we're not really removing wood yet, we're just removing paint. This is where we are with it so far. See right here, we're already getting close to that 1/16 of an inch mark, right on where our 7th fret area is here. You can use the paint as a bit of a guide when you're going straight across like this. Now, that's enough of the surf form. That's as much of the surf form as I want to do right now. I'm going to get my sandpaper set up and move on from there. Okay, again, I'm just going after it with 100 grit sandpaper. You can see that pull the camera around here a little bit. You can see that the stripe is widening considerably. Getting some red dust, which is the color of mahogany. Up towards the headstock, as I mentioned before, we're going to be removing the least material. There I'm more looking not so much at removing material as I am at changing the contour. Now, okay, here's our 7 fret mark. We are pretty much through to the bottom of the mark. So I'm going to pull my concentration away from there. I'm going to pull it up around the heel here. Just pulling that in. Sanding with the grain. And a little bit of a crosshatch. It's a little easier to make progress evenly if you don't always go straight with the grain. Another thing that I'm going to point out here is my favorite tool ever is the utility knife blade. You can use that to just pull back, kind of like a draw knife, without the need to maintain a draw knife, to burnish and whatever else you're doing on a scraper blade. I can still feel this notch right here, so we went all the way down, but not on this side, so we have to take more off on this side here. So that's the benefit of using the mark. That takes off material pretty quickly, so you want to be careful with that. Here, this is my problem spot here. I don't like the shape of things. Now I don't need to get super deep into the wood. I just need to peel back the paint a little bit. That'll keep the paint from loading up my paper, which will allow you to progress a whole lot more quickly than letting your paper get all loaded up with paint, and then you're basically just sanding paint instead of sanding wood. At this point, we have taken really more paint than wood off of the mat. Another thing to note too, if I weren't planning on doing some painting on this guitar, I would mask this off. Okay, I would mask off these areas, but I'm painting the guitar anyway, so I'm not too terribly concerned. All right, now I'm just gonna grab it. Well, that's already feeling quite a bit better. All right, I'm not going to take much more off of this. I'm not going to take much more at all. right, and pretty much from here, what I'm going to be doing is cleaning this off, taking the dust off. You can see our marks are gone. Marker is off. Really at this point it's just smoothing it out and get ready for a little bit of playing. All right, here we are with pretty much the closing part of this neck shaping thing. Here I have the Les Paul, and as you can see, if we look at the back, there's a lot of paint missing. And yeah, so we took a little bit of wood off of it. Plays somewhat better. It's certainly thinner, not a lot thinner, just a little bit thinner. Just enough to give you a little bit extra comfort, and that's really what I was looking for. I may possibly take a little bit more off. I'll play on it a little bit and see. That's something you can do with your own, obviously. You don't necessarily have to do it all in one fell swoop. You can actually take a couple of runs at it, and you know, if you want to take just a smidgen more, you know, once you play on it a little bit, you'll get a better feel for how the profile is. And if you want to make a little bit more of an adjustment, it's easily enough done. So I am just going to plan out now. What are we going to do here? The last one I did a little bit of a backing track here, so I'm going to do we're going to check the old interwebs here and see what backing track it wants us to do today. I like to randomize this and scrolling through. There we are. It looks like backing track 80s metal guitar backing track at 90 beats per minute. That's what we're doing today. So to close it out here, I'll quit gabbing and we'll move on to a little bit of playing. Next up on this guy is going to be, well, we have a little bit more to go now. There may be a little bit of a delay before I do the next installment on this, because we're probably going to be looking at paint and electronics. And checking the weather forecast right now, it's going to be in the 40s next week, which is nice, but it's not painting the guitar nice. So I'm probably going to be backburnering this series for probably about a month or so until we can reliably get into temperatures in which one can paint a guitar. So the plan then is when I paint, once again, I'm not completely repainting this guitar. What I'm going to be doing is scuffing the surface, shooting paint, shooting clear. At the same time, I will probably be going through and replacing the pots. Three-way switch, maybes. Three-way switch came around a little bit. Sometimes if the guitar sits, the workings of the switch, you know, there's a couple of little sort of spring contacts in there that get a little funky sometimes. They get sticky or whatever. You just kind of gotta play it out of them, and then they're fine. Pots on this though, they're and it's that weird Gibson plug-in style thing, so they're gonna go. But I don't see a whole lot of point in going through and taking this all out and then putting it all back in and taking it all out to paint and putting it back in. So the last couple installments of this here Les Paul Refresh series or Refresh series will kind of be happening all in one go, and it'll be happening later this spring. So for those who have tuned in so far, thank you very much. I'll probably be making a few other videos, though. I have some other ideas for some lesson things. And then this summer, I'm kicking around the idea of building another guitar. A zero radius or infinite radius, completely flat fretboard electric. I've never played one, and I was curious about it, so you can't really find them a whole lot of places, or they're very expensive, like the Chanlain Vigier, as they say in France. So I might as well make one, because Strat style guitars aren't that tough, and if I do that, I'll probably do videos on that. So anyway, enough jibber jabber. We'll get back to the playing part. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good day. Thanks. Bye.